Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. Mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia man. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia man. Go, go! Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, you can find us as part of Fans First Sports Network and on millions.co. We would like to remind you guys to please vote for us for Connect Savannah's Best of Savannah Best Podcast and Best Local Influencer. That's what they're calling social media this year. You know,
if it'll help, I'll do a TikTok dance. I mean, if that's what influencers do now.
I will let you do it. I am not going to join, but I am not going to stop. And I feel like a lot of people think that we're joking when we say we're going to kidnap Caleb. And I don't know if we said this on Sunday or if it was after we quit recording. Mike grew up in Detroit, and I grew up on the south side of Atlanta. Like, we are completely capable of doing that.
Yeah. I'm horrified, but expecting this to happen. As you said, I will not encourage or join in, but I will not stop you from doing what you have to do.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. We got till the 17th for that. So from when you guys are hearing this, it'll be 10 days. So please continue to do that each and every day. But this is part 3 of our Fixing College Football series. We're talking about the transfer portal and opt-outs.
Everybody's favorite parts of college football.
Yes. As long as your team is on the good end of a transfer, yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, if you're an Ohio State fan right now, well, yeah, you're loving it.
Or, if you are a fan of Zachariah Branch or Noah Thomas or
Yeah.
receivers with hands that can run good routes. But before we get into all that, man, how you been? What are you drinking?
I've been pretty good. I was both. So a little backstory. I've got an almost 4-year-old now, and for whatever reason, this almost 4-year-old just has a tendency to both impress and terrify us at the same time. Particularly when we're being lazy around here. Like from the time she was very young, like she was 18 months old once, and we didn't want to get out of bed one Saturday morning, and my wife jokingly says to her, "Hey, can you go make us a coffee?" just as a joke. And she leaves the room, and a couple of minutes later, I hear like a clacking sound, and I'm like, I'm gonna go check on her and see what's going on. And she's got a mug underneath the Keurig and a K-cup ready to load, standing on her stool.
Too smart for her own safety.
Yeah. And so tonight, similar situation. We're being lazy, and my wife's got some medicine she's got to take at night, and we give her a vitamin at night because she just likes doing what the grown-ups do, and she wanted to take medicine too, so she's got a vitamin. And so my wife asked if she could bring her medicine to her, and so she brought the 2 bottles over, and she was like, "Okay, you need to get yours too." And the girl walks in a couple of minutes later chewing on her little vitamin. And we're sitting here like, what? The vitamins also have like the medicine top that's allegedly childproof that you're supposed to push down.
Right.
And so we're like, what? How did you do that? And she's like, I got my medicine. And we're like, here. And we give her one of my wife's medicine bottles. Like, can you open this? And she just opened it. And we're like, okay. We're like, maybe don't do that unless mommy and daddy are around. Well, we'll keep these out of reach.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I am drinking kombucha because it's actually grown on me. I kind of enjoy it now. I'm a weirdo.
What's grown on you? Like the living things inside of it have grown, or like you are enjoying it?
The answer to that question is yes.
I've never had it, but the one time I've smelled it, it just smelled like vinegar, and I couldn't get over it.
See, it depends on what you've got. Like, there's a vinegary aftertaste to this one, but you mostly just get raspberry lemonade, which is fine with me.
That's fair. Um, yeah. So I was talking. I think we were talking before we started recording. This weekend is the big disc golf tournament that I helped put on at Fort Pulaski. So I didn't realize today was Thursday and we were recording until you sent me a text at about 6:30.
Yeah.
So that's
And inside baseball, I also did not realize it was Thursday and we were recording until it just came to me at 6:30.
yeah. So yeah, it's just been one of those weeks.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of dark to dark work and so I have a Sweetwater Tropical High Hazy IPA.
Mm.
Um, Shout out to my local Kroger. They Sweetwater 12 pack variety packs of their IPA, like all the different IPAs they make, $16 for 12. That's that's on par with a lot cheaper and worse beer.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I think Southern Brewing is like $20. Creature Comforts is like 25. I'm like Sweetwater 16. Yeah, taking that.
We take those, yeah.
So I got this, and then at the disc golf tournament this weekend, a local brewery is donating a keg,
Ooh.
so that'll always be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you notice I look a little different. I got a haircut. One of my friends said, "Is this what you do when you are cleaned up?" Yes. The answer to that is yes. This is as clean as it gets.
Yep.
The beard is short. The hair is short. I actually did something other than just let it exist. So, you know,
Yeah.
I
I had to do mine too, which I like getting my hair cut. I don't like my hair getting too long, but like for me, the beard was just hitting the sweet spot and like not, it might have gotten too long if I let it sit for another week or so, but it was perfect where it was. But unfortunately, like right as it was about to hit perfect, we had this big fancy pants formal black tie whatever we had to go to, which was fun. It was a good time, but you got to clean up for those. You can't run around looking like a slightly well kept homeless person.
yeah.
So
Um,
look,
I will say the one thing that I hate about my beard when it gets long, because I've told my wife before, if it didn't grow out instead of down, like if it grew down, I would just let it go for like a year and not do anything
mm,
about it because I don't care if it's long. The problem is the sides go out like sideways.
yeah,
In
yeah, I've seen those.
the middle is just a square. So I got a square
Yeah,
down here and the sides are out and it looks weird. So,
yeah. I know some folks who have those, and I always wonder, like, it looks perfect when it's here. Why do you let it get down there?
yeah.
So I'm glad you have the self-awareness required to do that. But I will say though, one thing you've got going for you, and sorry to get on a tangent about complimenting beards, but this was the first compliment I ever got on my beard, and it was from somebody whose beard I admired and helped kind of inspired me to grow it. But not everybody has the natural connection between mustache and beard. A lot of people have some space, and it takes some years to grow into that, and you've kind of got it. So
Oh, nice. I
it's
actually this is where the longest of my beard hair gets. So I have to trim this area specifically frequently.
because it'll overlap sometimes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
go to drink out
Yeah.
of a can and my mustache hair it stays with the can when I pull it away from my mouth. It's pretty awful.
Yeah, I get the feeling. I do. The mustache definitely has to be trimmed, but
Oh, for sure.
yeah, fellas, if you're listening and need grooming advice, apparently we're the place to go.
Yeah, you should be able to see your upper lip, guys.
Yeah,
I don't know who needs to hear that, but somebody does.
yeah, yeah.
All right, guys.
Maybe we'll win that best influencer thing if we start a men's grooming Instagram on top of it.
Yeah. Step one, bathe. Step two,
Yeah,
deodorant. Step three, brush teeth. You're on your way, dude.
Yeah, ain't nothing finer in the land than a well-trimmed, smelling good, handsome man. We'll workshop it.
Yeah, we'll shop it for sure. Are you ready to fix college football for the third time?
Yeah, let's do it. It's been so successful the other two times we've done it. Let's.
Yes. All right. So first off, we're gonna get into the portal. And I think we're gonna get into the portal first. It's gonna take less time. And I say that because conferences and coaches are putting pressure on the NCAA, and it's moving in the right direction as of right now. Um, Pretty much
Turns
every
out the wild, wild west is not the way to do this, and people are waking up to that.
right, right. There's a reason that serial killers were heroes in the Wild West, guys. It's because nothing was good about it.
Yeah, somebody's got to enforce the law.
There we go. But in my opinion, having two portal periods is just insane, right?
Yep.
Having the first portal period coincide with the end of the regular season and early signing period,
Yeah, that's a
certifiably
lot.
psychotic. It's
Yeah.
it's too much. It's too much, and we wonder why you have head coaches quitting to go be
Hmm.
coordinators or position coaches at other schools because they're just like, man, it's not
Yeah.
worth it's not
Yeah.
worth
If
it.
you're not in the playoff at the end of the year, it's really not worth it.
No, right.
Like, if you're in the playoff, you have more pressure, but at least you got something going for you. Like,
Yeah. And you hear coaches talk about it all the time, having to recruit your own roster pretty much week in and week out throughout the season. But then, I mean, just and this is probably not the last time South Carolina in 2024 is going to get mentioned, but South Carolina finished the season beating a team that got a guaranteed spot in the college football playoff. They did. Like that.
yeah,
They straight up beat Clemson, who was the 12 seed.
there's an argument.
Shane Beamer, after not making the playoff, getting told he's got to play Illinois, Shane Beamer not only had to go recruit his own roster and convince them to stay on board, he
He
had to
also
try
had to
and
seal
get
the deal on the best players he's trying to get next year.
right. He had to continue to recruit high school kids, start recruiting transfer portal kids, recruit his own roster, and try to convince his seniors and third year guys to play in the bowl game to build for next year.
Yeah,
And he had
absolutely
2 weeks.
insane. But
Yeah.
while you're complimenting South Carolina, I have to respond with an insult. So USC, when kids come to your school for a tour, maybe send somebody out there with them instead of just giving them a scavenger hunt to do other there.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I agree.
Yeah, there's a personal story behind that, but
Oh,
we can
okay.
get into that another time. But yeah,
Uh,
they don't understand that typically tours involve
Tour
other
guides.
people helping you know where to go. So
Ah. So, in my opinion, college football in general has to choose between getting rid of or moving the portal period and the early signing period.
yeah,
And with
we
most
can,
of the players on college football rosters coming from high school recruiting, and the fact that coaches spent a decade lobbying to get an early signing period,
maybe
it ain't
let's
going
just
nowhere.
move the transfer period away
Right.
from there.
Eh, Early signing period is not going anywhere. But they have the opportunity to do something about the portal period. So
Yeah,
I understand that choosing to do away with the first portal period would present a lot of issues of getting student athletes admitted into their new school, at least for
yeah,
football, basketball, baseball, softball, tennis, any of those sports. Doesn't really make a lot of a difference because most of those end in the summertime, right?
yeah. And football, you got the whole spring to contend with, and you got to get kids enrolled.
So, yeah, academics. But I mean, if we're being entirely honest with each other, which I try to do pretty much all the time on the show,
These dudes
Schools,
ain't there to play school.
nobody's there to play school. Schools bend the rules every single day for student athletes. Let's
Yep,
not
yep.
pretend that is the issue that is stopping everyone from fixing the transfer portal.
Yeah. Well,
That's not it.
if Zachariah Branch gets to school in February, he might be super behind in some of his classes. Like, nobody's worried about that.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like the athletic department tutoring staff couldn't help him?
Wink, wink.
Yeah. And if y'all are hearing a beagle in the background of my audio, I'm the only one home right now, so there's no one to keep the dogs quiet. Um, I, there's nothing I can do about it. He's
Yeah,
annoying, I know.
that is what it
Um,
is.
but I truly think that a lot of the portal issues would be solved if you went down to one portal period. And
Mm-hmm.
I know this is gonna a lot of people would not like this normally. You go down to one portal period, and the day after the first round ends, so that Monday, we'll say that Monday after the first round of the playoff ends, the portal's open for 45 days.
There we go.
It is a longer period of time to be open, and that 45 days at that point would let players from the team that wins the national championship still get into the portal.
Yeah,
Every
but
team,
you're not stretching it so late that you're worried about the academic issues.
and there might still be some academic issues, but I think at that point you say you have 45 days to enter the portal from this date. That date
Yep.
changes every year, but individual schools set their own rules for how late someone can commit and get admitted to a program. So let's say schools that actually truly care about academics, Stanford.
Stanford.
Yep.
I don't know
This
about your end. My end, it was simultaneous, but I know that's not really how it works with a delay.
it was real close. It was real close.
Yeah.
Guys, I promise you this is not in the outline. It just
Yeah. We
both
just
thought of Stanford. But Stanford, if they want to say you have to be committed to the program and moved in before classes start, like before classes start for everybody, that's fine. If
hmm
you want to be the University of Alabama, a place where academics come fifth,
run, Forest,
you
run. That's all we care about.
if University of Alabama says, all right, as long as you're committed to us by the end of January, we'll make it work. That's fine. The
Yeah.
schools are going to either free themselves or handcuff themselves based on what they find important. And I mean, you can't fix 136 programs. You can't
Yeah.
make 136 schools agree on an academic calendar. There's a reason that some schools, colleges, start the second week of January and some start the last week of January. That just is what it is.
Yeah. And a little bit of autonomy is one of the reasons we love college football.
Right. So I think you do away with the second period, start the first period later, make it longer, and tell schools to figure it out.
There we go.
Because that is firm guidelines. You have a hard left limit, a hard right limit, and the schools can figure out what to do in the middle,
Yeah.
unlike what the NCAA has done at any point over the last 20 years.
Very true. I will say, I think another addition to make regarding tampering,
Okay.
I think we need to define tampering because it sort of gets in the same realm as paying players where like everybody's doing it and maybe we just need some border walls around it, like some guidelines. Like maybe I don't know, you can only talk to people who've been at their school for more than 1 year
Yeah.
and you
It,
know,
and the issue with tampering in why I think it's essentially going to be impossible to fully stop. I've been on the record on this show saying that Jermaine Burton and Nick Saban had a conversation on the field after the 2021 national championship game.
Yep.
2 weeks later, not even a few days later, Jermaine Burton is committed to going to the University of Alabama.
Yeah.
That's
Which, it was a really good decision on his part because while he was at the University of Alabama, he ended up bringing home a national championship that next year. Oh, wait.
Yeah. But, regardless of, the fact that Jermaine Burton's been evicted multiple times in Cincinnati because he just hates doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like that is a very clear and obvious way that it was tampering. It was 100% tampering.
Yeah.
But without having a bug put on Jermaine Burton's uniform during that game, to hear what conversation was had, you can't say that for sure.
Yeah. Nick, I was just telling him how great of a player he is, just complimenting him. That's all. Uh-huh. You can't prove it any other way.
Right. And, with all these players having agents,
mm-hmm.
the coach tells a booster who tells a lawyer friend of his to send this agent a text message and say that, I heard at the bar that Caleb Downs would get $10 million if he came to Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, boom, he's in the portal. And a few days later, he's at Ohio State. That's all right. That's obviously fabricated story. I don't want to get anything twisted there because
we're not accusing anyone of doing it. Caleb Downs, I'm sure, had legitimate reasons to transfer to Ohio State University.
Well, even when he was
his
in
buddy
the portal,
Benjamin was over there, if nothing else.
In the portal, he was choosing between Georgia and Ohio State. Ohio State was just willing to pay him more money.
Yeah, that's fine. Reasonable.
Yeah. But it's those sort of things that you're never going to be able to stop. Just the way of when Alabama was giving all these players chargers. They were not breaking any rules.
Yeah.
The dealership was selling them to them for $1 and deferring the rest of the payment until they made it to the NFL. It's legal.
Yeah, it's legal.
So you can't stop tampering, but I think putting some legitimate punishments on people that get caught tampering would
dissuade people.
Dissuade people or make them get real good at it.
Yeah.
And I'm open to that mainly because, if they're dissuading people and 10 years from now or 70 years from now when Kirby Smart retires, he can sit around and talk on a podcast about all the ways he got around tampering.
Yep.
Like that
statute of limitations will probably still be a thing.
But yeah, I don't think you're going to fix tampering. I think there's too many cutouts, too many go-arounds. If they weren't catching coaches and staff allegedly dropping duffel bags full of alleged money at alleged number one recruits front steps.
Allegedly.
The day before that, alleged recruit allegedly committed to a school.
Allegedly.
And then allegedly transferred a year later, and then allegedly got drafted by the Chicago Bears.
What a crazy hypothetical situation that totally didn't actually happen.
Right.
Crazy.
Right. But if that sort of stuff was still happening in let's say 7 years ago,
yeah,
there's
throwing out a number.
Yeah, there's no way you can stop tampering today. All right, opt-outs. I feel like these two went together because it is like a players' rights thing, and I mean, I don't have an issue with players' rights. I just think
I would love for the players to have rights.
Right, I just think sometimes, being honest, players are a little too whiny.
Yeah.
Um, just, just being honest. But opt outs. And for being clear, the fix for opt outs is entirely predicated on NIL contracts and the pay to play format that's coming to college sports this fall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I'm actually
That's
working on trying to get an interview with somebody for what the pay to play format is actually going to look like because
right.
I know that it's happening because I met someone who played for Georgia Southern and got a $14 check for his would have been salary. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it is coming. Nobody knows what
Yeah.
it looks like. So
Yeah. Because that and I had forgotten that was starting to be a thing.
yeah, as
Because
soon as this
what I
fall.
wrote, yeah. Because what I wrote in the outline, I just went ahead and took it out because it wasn't keeping that in mind. So I will listen to what you have to say again, and then respond accordingly. Maybe I'll tell you what I was gonna say, but
Okay.
you go right ahead.
All right. So, and one thing that I do want to clear up based on the research that I have been able to actually get information from for the pay to play format. I think a lot of people are under the impression that each school has $20 million pay their football players.
They sure don't.
No, they do not. Each school has up to $20 million for athletes in their entire athletic department. And
Yeah.
this is not the NCAA giving all 136 Division One programs $20 million.
No,
This
it's just a
is
limit. And so if you don't have $20 million, you're not spending $20 million.
bingo. Each school has the option to spend that money. They are not
Mm-hmm.
given that money. They have to find it to spend it.
Yeah. Let me see what I can find here. Because this is
So,
basically colleges themselves are essentially going to be allowed to pay the players
yes,
pretty much directly.
yes. Um, but it's for the entire athletic department. So that is, at the University of Georgia, I don't know how many sports there are, but just off the top of my head, football, basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, tennis, women's tennis, equestrian, swimming and diving, track and field, winter track and field, gymnastics. We're up to 12. And how many athletes are on each of those rosters? I know in football it's 100 and something
I think
on the
our
roster.
gymnastics roster has like 18, so not quite as many, but
Right. So anywhere from 120 to, let's say, equestrian has 10. I don't know,
yeah.
but you have to spread up to $20 million between
A
just
couple thousand people probably.
yeah. If you're talking every sport, soccer,
Yeah.
UGA has women's soccer.
Hey, we said sport.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Cheerleading's a sport.
Cheerleading, yeah.
But yeah, so they have to spread that up to $20 million between hundreds, if not over 1,000 people. So Gunnar Stockton is not getting $5 million
No, he's
from the
just
University
not.
of Georgia.
I don't think anybody is going to get a deal like that again with this cap being put on.
No,
Not
and
directly from the university, at least.
right, and NIL is still around. NIL is still going to be a thing, but I think if schools I don't know if this is allowed within the rules that are set forth by the NCAA when it comes to the pay-to-play format, but should they be allowed to, schools I think need to have contracts with players of this is what is expected of you to get your check. And if that is the case, NIL obviously they already have contracts, but
Hmm.
the NIL and universities need to incentivize players to play in bowl games. Collectives, brands, the athletic department, in their contracts, there needs to be a structure in which the player does not have a part of their check or they don't get a bonus if they choose not to play in the bowl game. There are rumors that certain collectives already have this sort of structure in place. I think Alabama and Ole Miss both have a structure like that in place where it's either a bonus or you don't get your full check if you don't play in the bowl game.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's going to work. I think it needs to work like that
Yeah.
because, and this, just to be clear, if the player's healthy, if you're sitting out with a torn ACL, yeah, get the full check. You can't
Right.
play, physically cannot play. That's entirely different than sitting on a sideline in a Louis jacket with four chains on like that. We're not having the same conversation.
Right.
So if you choose not to play in the game, you need to be financially punished.
Yep.
Just like how Kirby and the NIL collective have started to fine players financially for getting traffic tickets.
Yeah. If I don't go to work, well, I work in government, so I get paid anyway. But most people, if they go to work, they don't get paid.
Right. If you choose not to go to work just because you don't want to, you don't get paid. If
I
you're
will get
sick
some
or if
some
you have a
kind of
planned
repercussion.
vacation. But yeah, no, it's, and and side note on the contracts issue, if schools are allowed to have contracts with players based on salaries, I think schools should be able to sign players to a minimum of 2-year contracts.
That
The
seems
big thing,
reasonable.
we've already mentioned the transfer portal. I don't think true freshmen should be jumping into the transfer portal after their first year
Mm-mm.
because as adults, I'm almost 30. I don't know if I like a job my first year in it.
Yeah.
Like it takes a while to figure out, all right, I really don't like this, or I'm not a fan of this, but I can live with it. And
Yeah. Everybody's had that first moment a few months in where something didn't quite go your way and you started thinking about leaving.
yep. And when you allow 18-year-old kids to do that, they're gonna leave.
Yeah, they're a lot more impulsive than the rest of us.
I and especially if they're like, man, I think I want to leave. This job's offering me twice as much money, and you
Yeah.
fail to realize the other job kind of sucks.
Yeah, the other job will probably get you kicked off the team before you're done, and then you'll end up going undrafted and maybe eventually make something of yourself, but you won't be making the same money you would have if you just stayed where you were.
Yep.
Wonder who I could be talking about.
There are a number of players you could be talking about right there.
That's true. There are. One of them went to Florida, and that's who I was thinking of
Okay.
specifically.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
you're right. There are a couple of them.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of my take on opt outs is that the players, and if we're being entirely honest with each other in the current format, the players have no reason to play bowl games other
Hmm.
than pride, which throughout society, not just rich college kids, a lot of people don't have pride anymore. So
That is
that
very true.
I'm not real worried about that complication. They need to be incentivized for it because NFL players continue to get checks and bonuses if they make the playoffs, if they win the playoffs, if they go to the Super Bowl, if they win the Super Bowl. Why should college kids not get that same treatment?
Yeah. I have to agree. I think the financial incentive is the way to go. I think my point's still going to kind of stand. Uh, I don't know, so you'll have to forgive me. I don't know how NIL contracts are structured, but with pay to play, if this is a true pay to play model that's coming from the universities, I think that would be easier to do, easier to put into those contracts because it is just you're getting paid for playing this many games. NIL is a little different. I feel like it could get legally dicey, but it's going to have to come from the NIL side because the school's only going to have 20 million to throw around. A lot of these kids, the big ones at least, are still going to be getting paid more from NIL.
Right.
probably than the university. So the way that it's set up, from what I understand, and I might be understanding it completely wrong, but legally speaking, I feel like they're not getting paid to play football in these NIL deals. They're, what's happening is these collectives are paying for, we know they're paying them to play football. That's why they're putting all this money in. But what they're legally purchasing is the right username, image, and likeness and things. So,
So I have heard a good argument for the the side of it where performance affects paychecks, because why as um I don't know, why as brawny paper towels am I gonna pay um
the leakiest cornerback in college football.
the guy Blanket or whatever his name is from
Yeah.
Texas A&M? Like, why am I gonna pay Blanket $100,000 a month to be in my commercials if he's not playing a game in the month of December?
Yeah, no, that I get. I just, that's a good point because that's where his fame is coming from, and that's essentially what you're paying for.
Right. And
Is what comes with that.
right, if you're not putting your name, image, and likeness out there, why am I paying you for it?
Right. Yeah. And of course, these companies obviously care as much about the name, image, and likeness that they get as pharmaceutical companies do about the commercials going up on these TV channels when they pay these media companies millions of dollars to put commercials up, and that's obviously just about the commercials. Wink, wink.
Yep.
So definitely has nothing to do with, oh, we don't want you to run any negative stories about our medications.
Man, you are just doubling down on the "we're not USAID funded" story.
That didn't even have anything to do with USAID, but yeah, throw that in there too. Why not? But so yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, and really, if the players agree to it, I guess you can make them agree to anything you want them to. But I'd be curious to see how much of the football playing you can actually put in these NIL contracts. But if you can, I agree that's the way to do it. If the hurting their wallet is going to speak to them more than anything.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where you have to go. And I think contractually, like you said, it is going to be easier to do that from the school to player contract.
Hmm.
But incentive wise, it is going to be significantly easier to do that on the NIL side.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Like I said, there are rumors that a few schools are already doing the bonus or full check to play in the bowl game.
Hmm.
Um, but you're never gonna know for sure.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get Lane Kiffin saying, "Yeah, the Grove Collective pays each player that's draft eligible and plays in the bowl game 100 grand."
Yeah. But if you're a player listening and you're thinking, well, gee, I don't want to sit here and have to, make less money and put myself on the line for a meaningless bowl game just because I'll make a few more bucks. There's a really good way to avoid this conversation about bowl games in the first place. Make the playoff.
Make the playoff.
If you're playing good enough, then it don't matter because you're not going to sit there and sit out of a national championship game. So,
Yep. Unless you're like the 5 players that opted out of playoff teams this year.
yeah, what's up with that, y'all? If I'm an NFL, by the way, I've said this before about opt-outs in bowl games, but this is especially the case. If your team makes the playoff and you're opting out of the game, as an NFL GM, I ain't touching you.
I I would want to, like, if I was an NFL GM, I would be hooking up players in interviews to a lie detector test to ask these questions, because I would
Yeah,
much rather you honestly tell me something I don't want to hear than lie to me.
yeah,
And if I had a player that opted out, I would ask why they chose not to. And if they said, our bowl game was in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz, for this to be a bowl game that didn't have playoff implications, I didn't want the potential to get a knee injury on artificial surface, and that was true. Cool. Taking care of
cool,
yourself.
great.
Understood. But if that comes up a lie, yeah, drop in.
We got problems.
Yeah, we got problems. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. I did forget to play our Fixing College Football audio, so here we go.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
There it is. I should have done that at the top. I forgot. That's on me. But please don't forget to vote on us for Connect Savannah's Best of Savannah. We would greatly appreciate it. Follow us on social media while you're at it, while you got your phone out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, rate and review the show 5 stars. And, as always, remember there's nothing finer in the land
That a sexy, well-trimmed, bearded man, and also a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan. I got it, though.